Hi, I'm Tiara, and today I'm going to be talking about standardized testing. Standardized testing has been a big ethical dilemma that many people have touched on throughout the years. Standardized assessments are tests that are conducted and graded in a standardized fashion. These tests rely heavily on question formats that can be instantly scored, such as multiple choice and true and false. Standardized assessments are commonly used to assess student aptitude and achievements, not confined to academic environments. An article by Ben Harkaway titled Standardized Testing, Failures, Effects, and Future Improvement, it states, standardized testing at its core is a system with good intentions. Despite these positive intentions, though, the introduction of standardized tests has been proven to be highly unsuccessful in the advancement of student achievement and appears to have negative impacts on the overall school environment. As a result, standardized tests need not be a predominant means of measuring student aptitude and putting less pressure on the importance of these assessments. Negative effects of standardized tests on the physical and mental well-being of students and teachers are becoming more prominent. In an article by Tracy Eggers titled The Tornadic Effect of Standardized Testing, it states, teachers often feel they don't have the time to teach the content they should because standardized testing has changed the way instruction takes place in a classroom. Teachers often feel obligated to set aside other subjects for days, weeks, or even months at a time in order to devote themselves to bettering their students' test scores. Students stressing and studying so much causes them to behave adversely, such as vomiting, headaches, anxiety attacks, acting out, and etc. When students are hearing constantly that this test is so important, that if they fail, this determines their future, and all this stuff, they're wanting to overwork themselves because they're wanting to get a good grade. They're wanting to study all the time. They're wanting to prepare. They're just wanting to make sure that they get a good grade because they want to make sure they have a future. And this isn't healthy because they're overworking themselves, overworking their bodies when their body just needs to rest sometimes. In an article by Brian Nixon titled The Pros and Cons of Standardized Testing, it states, scores don't provide a true picture of student ability. Schools should primarily only look at students' ACT and SAT scores to decide whether they get in or not. Some students are better in school than when actually standardized testing because of things as test anxiety. Some people, when they go inside the testing room, they get a sudden urge of anxiety upon them because they feel that they're incapable of doing it, causing them to score less. Or some people who are unfamiliar with the testing procedures. These people are uncomfortable because they're unsure of the material that's going to be on the exam. This causes them to score less as well. There are many deciding factors of what can alter a person's test score. An article by Lincoln Aftergood titled Why Standardized Tests Are Harmful to Students as They Enter the Real World, it states, if a student performs poorly on a standardized test, they can face increased pressure from their parents and peers to do better and be smarter. This can lead students to resenting learning and believe that they are worse than everyone else because of their low score. As a student myself who suffers from depression and anxiety, I have experienced this. I'm a great person, great student in school, but each time I take a standardized test, I would do horrible. And I feel very discouraged because the people around me would do better. And I know I was capable of doing better as well, but I just never understood why I wouldn't do well. In an article by Louise Guy titled 16 Biggest Pros and Cons of Standardized Testing, it states, it creates an accepted set of standards that are established throughout the educational community. The good thing about standardized testing, though, is that each school teaches the same material to prepare for the same test. So, say a student were to switch schools, that's fine because they would still be learning the same material. The only thing different is that they may be a little ahead or they may be a little behind. But that's okay because they're learning the same material for the same test. Standardized testing includes a collection of knowledge that schools can extract to reinforce their structure, constructional practices, and operations. I believe that schools should abolish the act of standardized testing because I feel it shouldn't be the deciding factor of a person's chances of getting in school, especially if they do bad on the test, but they make great grades in school. In an article from Penn State Titled Effects of Standardized Testing on Educators, it states, teachers often feel a lack of control because of the increasing significance of standardized testing in the classroom. This exponentially increases the stress levels of educators. Their own personal careers, salaries, and livelihood may be determined by how well their students perform on a single exam, one day of the year at a single time. Many variables can influence test scores: how students slept the night before, what kind of food they ate, how nervous they may be, how hot or cold they may be in the test room. There are many different things that can factor towards a test score. Students' test score grades can affect the teacher's career. What I mean by this is that, say, a lot of students in this math teacher's class does horrible in the math section. That teacher would be looked at because this whole year she should be helping prepare her students to pass this, not fail it. So her career may be undecided at the moment. As a student, when I took standardized testing, I wouldn't understand why I would do so bad when I did so good in school. It never made sense to me. But then I learned other people suffer from this same problem. That is why I feel that overall they should either get rid of standardized testing as a whole or just focus more on the students' overall transcript grades and how they did in school instead of standardized test scores. Schools are basically, I feel, profiling. That's like sticking your ACT score on top of your head and say, oh, you got an 18, I'm sorry, ma'am, you can't come here because you didn't score well enough. It's judging a book by its cover. Students are capable of more than a standardized test. I'm better at test taking in school. I'm better in school than I am standardized testing wise. So I know that I'm capable of more, and I know that other students are capable of more. So I feel the schools should be more open-minded when they're looking at students and deciding whether they should get into the school or not. Thank you.